Sukuna has been defeated, and the final plan to bring about his demise has blown everyone's mind. Yuji literally cried with the return of Nobara after being missing for 140 chapters and 4 years. But that's not all. Resonance has attacked Sukuna's soul, making him lose the domain battle with Yuji, where chapter 267 has so many callbacks that have tied up the story beautifully. Mwah.
This is because there's nothing that can be done here that can be improved on. This is peak.
Now I know why Shueisha keeps striking our Jujutsu Kaisen videos, because we theorized everything correctly word for word, bar for bar. As the chapter begins with a flashback of Gojo and Yuta's body switch training. Bruh, my man Yuta over here, he was truly the MVP, as he made backup plans A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, all the way to Z to ensure that Sukuna dies.
Wallahi, you're finished. Wallahi, you're finished.
Essentially, during the time skip, Yuta was confident to take out Kenjaku and use his brain hopping technique before it even happened, showcasing how meticulous he was with his plans. However, Yuta knows that if Gojo does die, then using his body won't be enough. He admitted in chapter 262 that he knew switching bodies once would not have been enough for him to use Limitless properly. Hence, he has taken on the role of coming up with more viable solutions. One of which is to gain Sukuna's curse technique by consuming the remaining finger Gojo had hidden, which was to indefinitely delay the execution of Yuji Itadori. But Gojo breaks down why this is redundant due to how Yuta's copy technique works. The requirement needs Rika to eat a body part of a specific person to copy their curse technique. Remember, Unamaki lost his arms in Shibuya, whilst Hana Kurisu lost hers when Sukuna took a little nibble at her, literally. Now all Yuta has to really do is find their body parts, feed them to Rika, and obtain their curse techniques. Even in Uru's case, Rika had taken a bite out of her arm, whereas with Kenjaku, Rika must have straight up consumed his brain during chapter 249. It's also important to note that once Rika consumes that body part, Yuta immediately gains their technique, but if they heal it through reverse curse technique, he loses the ability as well. However, the body part needed scales based off the power level of the technique that Yuta is trying to copy in the first place. So let's say you want to copy Geto's curse spirit manipulation, dubbed one of the greatest techniques in sorcery history, then a major important body part is required. For weaker sorcerers like my Zenin, where it was construction, then the body part needed for something like that is not too significant. In this case, Charles' future sight required a rib cage, and Hikari makes this half-assed promise that he could heal him later, which, bruh, that ain't happening. I'm sorry. Thank you for your service, Charles.
Cheating karta hai tu.
Likewise, to analyze and use Sukuna's shrine, a single finger that only equals 1/20th of him would not be enough, as Gojo claims, because Yuta needs information on how to use the technique. Most of the time, it's guesswork and through prior observation, like with Uro. As a result, Gojo Sensei states eating Sukuna's finger is a big gamble, referring back to Hikari's fever, as they will lose the only connection they have to Sukuna's soul. This statement directly connects to a huge story in Jujutsu Kaisen's manga and the final chapter. Remember, Hikari believes that everyone in life gambles on something. This is their fever of trying to change things in some way. But the true manner of dealing with this fever is by gambling. He thinks that society tramples on people who can't bet big enough, meaning people who can't take chances to progress to their goal. For example, as a sorcerer, Hikari literally gambles his life with his domain expansion to achieve greater power. Once again, this is something that we even find in Gojo. He wagered everything on his students, even his status in Jujutsu society, to foster them into strong sorcerers like he did with Yuta and Yuji, saving their lives. Therefore, the fever, as Gojo puts it in chapter 267, it applies to sorcerers in general. They bet on their lives to take down down cursed spirits in the hopes of creating a better society by eradicating evil. On the other hand, as the manga said itself, society also hates people who don't know when to stop. Knowing one's limits is crucial to not losing it all. In this case, Gojo understands the gamble of using Sukuna's finger the way Yuta wants to. It's not worth risking, which is why the finger Yuta actually consumed is not Sukuna's, but Yuji Itadori.
I can see it, I feel it. He's cooking.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Peak Kaizen. Everything we had predicted came into fruition, and I want to thank every member of the channel and Patreons for supplying their curse energy. But how did this work? Yuji has Sukuna's curse technique engraved into his body, which was confirmed by Gojo's 6 eyes, and he ended up being a curse object soaked in the king's energy. This means eating his finger poses no risk, as they won't be losing anything. And to compensate for the lack of body part, Yuta stated he will make a binding vow that limits the use of malevolent shrine, hence why he didn't spam it against Sukuna and why it wasn't so strong, as he fills Yuji in on the plans. They make a hunch that resonance with Sukuna does not relay memories or thought, but rather just a change in anatomy. The reason Yuta assumed this is because Yuji himself can't read Sukuna's thoughts, and their relationship should be a two-way street. However, just to ensure he isn't jeopardizing this big brain strategy, Yuta decides to only relay necessary information and suggests Yuji doesn't give him his finger until Gojo is confirmed to be dead. But you know, let's call it as it is. This whole resonance concept that Todo picked up from nowhere, if it was only physical anatomy information that would be shared, why didn't they just tell Yuji their entire plan, since thoughts can't cross over? Sukuna couldn't even feel there was a missing finger on Yuji the entire time.
Well, that's just lazy writing.
We need a better explanation. Anyway, the reason why Yuji was given the curse object gauntlets was not only to hide his missing finger, but also increase his durability. In the end, Sukuna noticing Yuji missing fingers sends him into a shock, acknowledging the wound isn't new, and that he only used the boy's pinky finger to switch bodies in Megami in chapter 212. He thinks back to Yuta's statement and realizes, bruh, I'm cooked, I've been duped, fam.
We have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, and flat out deceived.
In chapter 251, he was tricked into believing that Rika ate the last remaining finger, which subsequently gave Yuta access to Sukuna's shrine. However, as mentioned and showcased with Jacob's ladder, Yuta's copy technique's true strength is having 2 of the same cards in their hands. This causes a complementary effect of misdirection. But Sukuna learning this truth, it won't really change what's about to happen next, because as we move to the staircase, Sukuna's final finger is still with the good guys, tied up with Gakuganji and Utahime, ready for execution. Utahime states it hasn't even been half an hour since she's woken up, finally showing the executioner, Nobara Kugisaki. Now, we were more than certain she would return. The reason we've been saying on and on about Nobara coming back was because of the immense number of clues and foreshadowing that Gege Akatami had done. Those that think, oh my god, man, this is some Disney Kaisen bullshit, or you think this is stupid, bruh, you really need to increase your reading comprehension and start your second manga. Like, bruh, please, you're feeding the reading comprehension curse on a weekly basis. For starters, in chapter 124, Mahito himself states that he couldn't even kill Nanami with just one hit, wondering what would happen with Nobara. We did not see the wound on Nobara's face fester in chapter 126, and her return confirms Nobara has an eye patch with her face intact, as people in the community theorized that in order to stop the attack from actually killing her, Nobara inflicted an injury onto herself, taking the small chance of surviving through this method, as she knew how Mahito's technique worked. It's not an out-of-the-box idea because Todo also cut off his hand to stop idol transfiguration from spreading in chapter 133. And lastly, in chapter 127, Arata Nita states that he has finished treating Nobara. He has an ability that prevents decomposition and stops injuries from getting worse. So even though she did not have a pulse, nor was she breathing, Nobara was not 100% dead. Bruh, this is standard writing in fiction. If you don't see the dead body, the grave being dug up, they're sent in that grave, they're in the afterlife, nobody's actually dead in fiction, you know what I'm saying? You've seen it in so many stories, you know? Shit! Now on top of this, Gege left her fate vague despite bringing her up multiple times in the story. For example, after reuniting with Megami in chapter 144, Yuji asks him about Nobara, only for Megami to not say anything, whilst Yuji simply assumes the worst. Now Yuji cries with her return because he truly felt a bond with her, even getting upset that Hana could possibly replace her. Even when Gojo went to the afterlife, all of his old mates were there, even so Rico Amanai, and freaking Toji out of all people in heaven with him in the airport, but Nobara was nowhere to be seen. So it makes a lot of sense that Nobara has come back, people. But with that out of the way, Nobara uses resonance on Sukuna's finger, which affects his soul, damaging him in the process and leaving him wide open. Utahime clarifies that even though Sukuna's finger is a special grade curse object that cannot be destroyed, the attack on it can work with a binding vow, where the goal is not to destroy the finger, but to simply bypass the technique itself. Now, I don't know if it's just me, but have you guys noticed that binding vow seems to be the ultimate plot device that fixes all the writing problems and, hurdles for Gege to make the plot make sense? I'm just saying.
Well, let's be nice. Yeah. Let's be nice. We don't have to go there.
Regardless, with her attack, Nobara gives us the best one-liner she could and repeats the very same words Yuji stated when he surprised them that he was still alive back in chapter 32. She states Opapi, referring to ocean, Pacific, and peace, a signature routine that Japanese comedian Huriki Ariyoshi uses. He even did Yuji's pose in this picture. Now, if you didn't know that, smash the like button. So with the pain of being hit, Sukuna's shitting bricks. With fear running through his mind, the king realizes he can't use domain expansion, but that's the least of his worries, as immediately after, Yuji follows up with a soul dismantle. But my guy Sukuna saying, I ain't giving up, mother. Even though he finally landed a sure hit attack in his domain expansion, Yuji's dismantle and punches that make Sukuna vomit are not able to completely rip his soul from Megami's body just yet. In desperation, Sukuna thinks that Yuji has surpassed his limits long time ago, and because he isn't using reverse curse technique to heal himself and the fact he had just used domain expansion, he asserts that Yuji doesn't have much gas in the tank. But what do you guys think? He's wrong! He's about to die!
You're finished. You're finished. You're finished.
Now the moment Sukuna gets excited, thinking there's still hope, his punch gets countered by one of Yuji's OG moves, Divergent Fist. Yuji's curse energy has a time lag, and by striking with his fist using a thin layer of curse energy, a second wave is unleashed a few moments afterward, effectively creating two impacts with one punch. Now you might call it out, how did Sukuna not figure this out? Well, how come Awakened Mahito didn't figure this out? And since Sukuna is diverting from his true nature or being calculated, he's making massive mistakes. This gives Itadori the perfect opportunity for his killing blow, with Yuji declaring he will put an end to the cycle of curses. He hits Sukuna with another Black Flash, knocking him out cold. This Black Flash must have been as strong as Gojo's, because for the second time in this man's life, he was sent to bed. In fact, Gege also gives Yuji the perfect revenge by depicting Sukuna as the same Harime statue that he and Uruume had once mocked Yuji about and were laughing at it. Yuji's final statement is also a reference to chapter 203, where Kenjaku stated that as long as Sukuna and Yuji are alive, the cycle of curses will never end, hinting at at Jujutsu Kaisen's true ending for the manga and why the logo for sorcerers is a whirlpool, curses and curse energy in general, it needs to end with Sukuna's death, which is another throwback to the conversation Yuki had with Geto, giving us closure for that moment since the cycle will never truly end if curse energy that provides for it never disappears completely. But to enjoy more peak fiction, find out how Boruto increased his power 100 times and his incoming death due to there being multiple timelines.